questions. Okay, so why that are very relevant as present context also, and how UPSC repeats these kind of questions, so we should have some brief idea. So question number 1 is the early Buddhist stupa art, while depicting folk motif and narratives successfully expound Buddhist ideal elucidate. So what it wants to ask, first of all we should have a brief idea, like there should be 250 maximum marks for a wallpaper, and here is given 12 and half, but now it's 10 into 10 and 15 into 10. Okay, so it quite changed the pattern, but not exactly the words are similar. It's 4000 words you should has to write down here, and here is the 200 words for each, but now it is 150 and 100 words for each. Okay, so this is the new pattern as changed after 2018 and 19. So as we are discussing paper of 2016 first, so earlier Buddhist stupa art while depicting folk motive and narratives. So what was the Buddhist stupa art? So stupa were raised in various kingdom in honor of Buddha after his death over relics. The Buddhist stupa depict Jatka stories, okay, and main incident of Buddha's life in pictorial format. Jatka stories are depicted on Toran of stupa, teaching of Buddhist lesson and karma, samsara and dharma, and narrates the cycle of samsara that the Buddha had experienced before reaching the enlightenment. So main structure of stupa consists of a flattened hemispheric dome and known as the anda. So this was the hemispherical dome that was called the anda. Okay, and or egg represent the latent creative power. It also replicate the infinite dome of heaven, representing cycle of birth and death. What is that? That is birth and death of Buddha. That cycle represent that particular dome. The Hermika located at the summit of the Anda symbolize the zenith beyond life and death. So there was a Hermika that symbolized the zenith behind the life and death. So resembles as sacrifice altar of particular significance for attainment of nirvana. So what was the Buddha's central idea? That was to attainment of nirvana. How he will attain the nirvana? Because of the enlightenment. Okay, so enlightenment is the important to get the nirvana. So Buddha taught us to go for the nirvana after getting the enlightenment. So there was some kind of relic and some kind of relics, and some kind of stupas, and some kind of structure architecture where he depicted his teaching, like what is karma, what is samsara, what is dharma. Okay, next one, the next one is what next one is here given something like the parasol is distinguishing feature of stupa. Parasol is the distinguishing feature of stupa, implying royalty and dignity, as well as the symbolizing the sacred tree of life and enlightenment. This was the dome shape, and there was a parasol, that distinguishing feature of stupa. Okay, so what is the stupa and what is the vihara? Actually, the stupa is the place where some ashes of burned, like dead body, is to make a some mound kind of structure, and the vihara is the dwelling place of the monk, of the Buddhist monk. So that was for the remembrance of the Buddha's life and enlightenment, how he reached that enlightenment, and to get the true teaching from the Buddha's life. So the three element of Chatra or Sachi stupa represent the three jewel of Buddhism: the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So this is the three jewel of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, which was depicted in the Sachi stupa. So Vedika represent around the stupa, and on the other hand, terrace demarcating the boundary of the sacred persist with the secular word. So the stupa are successful depiction of the folk motif and narratives expounding the Buddhist ideal. So now next question we are going to discuss here. The Krishnadev Raya, the king of Vijayanagara, was not only an accomplished scholar himself but was also a great patron of learning and literature. So Krishnadev Raya, as we all know, in Vijayanagara dynasty, he was a royal. He was a very flourished. He was a very renowned king in that particular area. So from 1509 to 1529 as the third ruler of the Tulluva dynasty. Okay, he is regarded as the icon, earning a title like Kannada Raja Rama Ramana Andhra Bhoja and Moru Rayana Ganda. He got lots of titles, as we can say Kannada Raja Rama Ramana Andhra Bhoja. Okay, the rule of Krishnadev Rai, known as the golden age of the Telugu literature. His age was what? For the Telugu, not for Tamil. Many times this asked like Tamil. No, it's not Tamil, it's Telugu. This time also witnessed prolific growth of literature, language. Many Telugu, Sanskrit, Kannada, Tamil poet enjoyed patronage. So 8 poet known Diggajalu. Ashtadiggajalu, like Ashtapradhana was in the Maratha dynasty, but Ashtadiggaja was in the Krishnadev Raya dynasty. We should have the understanding of these kind of facts. So there was like cordial 8 points such as north, south, part of court like Bhuvana, Vijanamu, that kind of points were there. Okay, he patronized the Kannada poet Malla Narya, who wrote Veer Sivamrutta, Bhava Chintaratna, and Satyendra Chola Kathe Chattu Vittal Antha, who wrote Bhagavata, and Timmana Kavi, who wrote eulogy of his king in Krishna Devraj. So Timmala was the Kavi, court poet, who wrote the eulogy, like all chronology of the Krishna Dev Raya's life. Allasani Peddana, he was also a greatest patronage. He got also patronage, and his title was Andhra Kavi of Pitamaha. So Nandi Timala wrote Parijata Amu, and Battumurti alias Ramaraja Bhushanudu wrote Kavya Lankara Sangramahu, Vasu Charitamahu, and Harishchandra Nalo Pakhi Namau. These kind of like poetry art he wrote down in his period. But as we are going to write down in means, so we should not have the all such facts in our minds, but basic facts should be all in all our mind, like Padana was in his poet and and some kind of important names are there, like he was a scholar in Telugu. Ashtadiggaja was the important point here. Almananaraya and Kannada, V's Sevam, Rutta, Bhava Chinta. These kind of some important facts we should have in our mind. Okay, so Pingali Surana wrote the still remarkable Raghav Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So Pindali Surnaya was the in his remarkable. He wrote about the Raghav Panda Viyamu. So double meaning built into the text, describing both Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Pingali Sura was also in his pot. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about Krishnadev Rai. Not only was himself a scholar but also greatest patron of learning, literature, and Emperor Krishnadev Rai was fluent in many languages. So this is the some facts which we should have some brief idea about all that. Next question is what? Explain how the uprising of 1857 constitute an important watershed in the evolution of British politics towards colonial India. So we are going to discuss about the British colonial India. Okay, and why this 1857 revolt was very important for this era. Okay, so we are going to discuss something about now this, like first of all, what was the act Act passed by 1858. So what was that kind of act that was passed in that era? And the British crown took over power to govern India from the East India Company. The act was the Act of Parliament 1858, where the British crown took over the power to govern the India from East India Company. Henceforth, the Secretary of the State for India, added by his council, would exercise authority over India. So there will be a Secretary of State who will take the whole power, and he will be the authority of all India. The Indian Council Act again enlarged the Governor General Council for the purpose of making laws, which was known as Imperial Legislative Council. So 1861 there was the Imperial Legislative Council, and that was built up after Governor General's Council. So the presidency, Bombay, Madras and Bengal were administered by the governor and his executive council of three appointed by the crown. European branch domination over the army started, and proportion of European to Indian in the army was raised. What was the European wanted to do with Indians? They wanted to tell us that you are always subjugated from of us, we are always superior than of you. That's why what they did for that, they even create the domination over the Indian country and Indian army. They even raised the Britishers in the army, and decreases the number of Indians from the army, and crucial branches were in the hand of European also, and Indian were excluded from the higher posts. So that was that kind of the divide and rule policy. The Britishers wanted to divide the India. The Britishers said that we are superior than, we are white man burden theory. They given the theory of white man burden, and they always wanted to give us some lessons from their policies, like Curzon's policies, Lytton policies, and many many governors general at that time who taken some harsh policies against the India. So these kind of activities they were doing against the India. After revolt, Muslims were suppressed, their land and property were confiscated on large scale, and the Hindu were declared to be favorite. After 1817, the policy was reversed to the turn Muslim. Again, the nationalist movement carried out by Hindus. Thus, policy of divide and rule was the followed by after 1857 of revolt. Princely state had remained loyal to the crown, and their loyalty was rewarded. So princely state was always loyal to the crown, and their royalty was always rewarded, as Britishers wanted that they should be always with us. Thus 1857 revolt marked an important phase in change of British government attitude and policy towards the India. So what kind of act that was, and how Britishers wanted to subjugate the India, that was important in this act. Okay. Now next, discuss the role of women in freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase. So here we want to discuss something about the women struggle in the Gandhian phase. Annie Besant, an Irish lady, become the leader of Theosophical Society. As we should have also understanding about, she was the first woman president in the Indian Congress also, as well as she was leader of Theosophical Society in 1902. While London, she criticized England for the condition prevalent in India. In 1914, she joined the Indian National Congress and gave it a new direction. Kasturba Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's wife, was a leader of women's satyagraha, for which she was imprisoned. So Kasturba Gandhi, wife of Mahatma Gandhi, also the leader of women's satyagraha, she also imprisoned. She helped her husband in cause of indigo, Champaran, and many kind of revolt, Gandhi taken against the foreigners. So no tax movement, Kheda, Gujarat. She was arrested twice for picketing liquor and foreign clothes shops, and 1939 for participating in the Rajkot and Satyagraha. Okay, that was the kind of things that was happening at that time. Now the remarkable woman elected to the presidentship of the Indian National Congress was Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu was the remarkable woman who was, as per that, she was selected as a presidentship of the Indian Congress. Okay, she contributed to freedom struggle activity. Aruna Asaf Ali became the acting member of Congress party after marriage and participated in public processing during the salt satyagraha. Aruna Asaf Ali dubbed the heroic of 1942 movement of her bravery in the face of danger and was called grand old lady of the independence movement. Okay, so that kind of Aruna Asaf Ali was. Indira Gandhi from early year was active in the national liberation struggle during 1930, and she formed Vanar Sena. Okay, Vanar Sena formed by Indira Gandhi. She became a member of during 1930 movement, and she formed Vanar Sena and plunged into political activities also. Apart from them, the sister Nivedita, Mradula Sarabhai, Kamla Nehru, and Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, Madam Kamla Ben, Sarla Ben. There are lots of women who participated in the freedom fighting and Usha Mehta, Durga Bai, Beena Das, Kalpana Datta. So these kind of women was very important at that time and were presenting themselves at that time. Okay, now the question number 5 is there. Question number 5 is there about highlight the different highlight the different highlight the differences in approach of Subhash Chandra Bose and Mahatma Gandhi in struggle of freedom. So we should have to bifurcate this question in two parts, and then we will give the what was the Gandhian ideology, what was the Subhash Chandra Bose ideology. First we will give the introduction, then body part, then we will give the conclusion, and after then we will give the why they was very much different from each other. Okay, so first of all, Subhash Chandra Bose and Mahatma Gandhi, two legendary leader of Indian freedom struggle, were completely different in their approach toward the movement. Bose had revolutionary mindset and intended to launch all of struggle for freedom against British. Gandhi, on the other hand, believed in peaceful resistance method which involved non-cooperation struggle, truth struggle method. Truth struggle method, as this method was asked in mains also as well as in prelims also. So that was the Gandhian method, struggle truth struggle method. But what was the Bose method? It was the revolutionary mindset. Gandhi and other senior leaders were demanded dominion status as first state, while Bose and other young leader Indian National Congress were for self-rule and Purna Swaraj. So what Bose wanted, he wanted the Purna Swaraj and self-rule. But Gandhi, what said at Gandhi was the true faith in the British rule. That's why he demanded dominion status in the patronage of the Britishers, because he was not aware at that time that what kind of Britishers wanted from him. That's why he was very much faithful, very much loyal towards the Britishers. But after that, the policies of Britishers was continuously coming, and he was continuously watching what they wanted to do with the India. That's why he given the very strict action after then. So Bose had revolutionary urge, while Gandhi was a propagator of ahimsa, non-violence, and freedom struggle, constructive work, khadi, charkha, trusteeship, and all that. While Gandhi was completely against involving foreign power in freedom struggle, Bose was keen to take help powerful countries of secure freedom from the British. So formed Indian National Army (INA). He formed and he taken help from Japan and attacked on Britishers and also from Germany. So Bose was impressed with fascism and communism and intended to have a strong political system in India, while Gandhi did not believe in any extreme political system. Gandhian view of economic and political system were very liberal, while Bose had idea of strong governance based on the planning and control. Okay, even after having different view, both leaders contributed tremendously in the success of Indian freedom struggle by leading people in their own ways. Now we are going to discuss the next question. So the next question is how the formation of linguistic state strengthened the cause of Indian unity. So how the formation of linguistic state strengthen the cause of Indian unity? So here what the question wanted to ask, linguistic state strengthen the cause of Indian unity. So why this kind of linguistic states are very much traumatic for the Indian unity? The post independence period saw the political movement for the creation of new states. Like there is lots of states, we can give the example as per that, Hyderabad wanted to become a different state, and Junagadh wanted to become a different kind of state. Kashmir wanted to become different from the India. So 1948, the government appointed commission under S.K. Dar, a judge of the Allahabad High Court, to examine the case of reorganization of the state on the linguistic basis. It favored reorganization on the basis of administrative convenience rather than linguistic convenience. So what Kedar said, that it should be on the administrative convenience rather than linguistic consideration. So December 1948, Congress appointed a committee under Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and Patabi Sita Ramaiah, so known as JVP committee. Okay, that was formed in 1948 to examine the issue. The committee in the report submitted in 1949 and dismissed the idea of reorganization of a state on the linguistic basis. So in 1953, the government was forced to create a separate state of Andhra Pradesh for Telugu speaking people following the long drawn agitation and death of Potti Shiramalu after the hunger strike of 56 days. So first state which was formed on the basis of the linguistic basis was the Potti Shiramalu in Andhra Pradesh, that was formed in 1953. Then in December 1953, Jawaharlal Nehru announced the appointment of a commission under Fazl Ali, okay, and demand the State Reorganization Act 1956 was a major reform boundary of the Indian state. So that was some kind of reform took place at that period of time. So linguistic state was the primary. Next question was there. Question number 6, we discussed linguistic state. Now we are going to discuss like creation of state and linguistic basis is due to the public demand and politically considered decision for national unity. However, creation of state on linguistic basis has not proved to be a disastrous for India, and it has rather created unity among people on the basis of language. Okay, so but there is no additional advantage arising out of interaction among different linguistic groups that could have resulted into removing linguistic, cultural and ethnic differences among people. The diversity of India has not intermixed to create a pan-India culture due to linguistic state. So the next one is there. What is that actually? The next question, as we are going to discuss here, is the anti-colonial struggle in West Africa were led by the new elite of Western educated African. Examine. Anti-colonial struggle in West Africa were led by new elite of Western educated Africans. As we saw in the India also, the colonial struggle was because of the elite people in the India. As similar we can see in the West Africa, that was led by the new elite of Western educated African. Why? Because European had colonized Western Africa in the latter age of 19th century and early 20th century. The political change over that time turned out to be the inadequate to accommodate African aspirations, which had been derived from social changes occasioned during the classical period of colonial rule and further weighted by the policies of active economic development. So what was there? There was the active economic development as well as the social changes which was in a classical period. So by the late 1940, both the French and the British territory possessed an educated politicized classes. So what was there? There was a possessed educated politicized classes which felt frustrated in the legitimate expectation. It had made no appreciation progress in securing any real participation in the system of political control. So French and Britishers was frustrating the whole legislative system of the Africans, and there was no progress at all, and real participation of system in political control were also lacking. There was enough education to make European style political activities possible in all the coastal colony. So what was there, like enough education for the European style of education, not for the African style. So the politicians in the French West Africa organized a federation wide political association, the African Democratic Rally. There was a African Democratic Rally in the 1946 against the Britishers and against the many kind of foreign rules. So French West Africa organized that kind of federation wide political association in the African Democratic Rally. Anti-colonial activities started in the 1890 in Gold Coast, where professional and some chief founder of Aborigine Right Protection Society to prevent the wholesale expropriation of African land by European entrepreneur or officials. So what was the problem in Gold Coast? The Britishers and some kind of French rulers was there, and they was confiscating that land because of their own economic interest and because of their own economic and political interests. So that was a agony in that particular area of Gold Coast. So there was anti-colonial activities flourished at that time. In 1947, expropriation of African land by European entrepreneur or official in 1947, the established politicians of Gold Coast, both in Kwame Nkrumah, who had studied in the United States and Britain and had been active in Pan-African movement. Who was the main leader? Kwame Nkrumah. He even studied in United States and Britain, but still he took the part in Nationalist Party. Similar example can be traced in other Western African countries where anti-colonial struggle were led by new elite Western educated Africans. Okay, now we are going to discuss the next question. This question is all-time favorite question and all-time important question. The To what extent globalization has influenced the core of cultural diversity? So in 2020, also the similar question was asked by UPSC. India is a country of cultural diversity where language, food, clothing, and way of the differ from region to region. So this diversity is interwoven in the Indian culture, and globalization has the merged traditional border as well as the reduce the distance. So close contact globalization has emerged as traditional border, and it interacted the pupil from the different kind of cultures, different kind of ideas, different kind of exchanges of the clothings and the customs, traditions, and kind of things which was different, like rituals and food habits. Okay, so like caste system, a strong phenomena in the Indian society, has been dying slow death due to the globalization, regionalism, communalism, that linguistic problems, that all was dying because of the globalization, and result in mixing of the people from different kind of society, different kind of caste, different kind of economic backgrounds. So they was mixed up with the different kind of arenas of the countries, and they were happy after the globalization. But it's not like all right that globalization is always in a positive way. Similarly, impact of globalization is evident in our family. Like before that, there was a joint family tradition of India, slowly partially giving way to nuclear families. So in joint family, we have kind of the values, we have kind of the emotions to be reconnect with our family. But in nuclear family, there was not kind of the system where we can reconnect with our family and friends. Rural people are migrating to the urban area for education and employment, with immediate family member leaving parents and sibling back home in village. Okay, so in the rural area also the migration from the urban migration from urban area to rural area and rural to urban area. There was more migration from rural to urban, and there was education, employment, development, and family now become the joint nuclear family rather than a joint family. Role of women has been traditionally of the homemaker and helping hand in the agriculture and animal rearing activity. Due to impact of globalization, now women are perspectively contributing to society direct and more meaningful manner, like education, employment opportunity have increased for women, and lifestyle of the people have changed, has changed across the diversity of culture, bringing them to follow or adopt international clothing style and lifestyle. Moreover, the most evident culture factor of different language are bringing gap through a common language for the world. Like English is the day-to-day in Indian life. Okay, that was the positive aspect of globalization. If this question will ask about the negative aspect, we can say also like there is a westernization, there is a uh, the product selling as a body is a now a product as per the woman, and the clothing system is now changed because of globalization. Food habits like junk foods and the street foods are now more in the prevalent, and economic conditions are even now not good after 1991, because now agriculture based society is totally shifted toward the service based society and the industrial based society. So these kind of drawbacks we can also discuss here. Next question: essential condition to eradicate poverty is to liberate the poor from process of deprivation. Substantiate this statement with suitable example. Okay, so what should we have to describe about poverty? By poverty rise of the lack of opportunity and ability to participate in the mainstream of economic activity. We don't have opportunity, we don't have to participate in mainstream. That's why we are poor. Poverty leads to lack of education and lack of vocational training, which result into unskilled manpower. Unskilled people do not earn enough to come out of poverty. They are also not able to make beneficial use of available natural, social, economic resources. This situation of deprivation leads to poverty on a mass scale. To eradicate poverty, people should have access and utilization of resources available in the country. Like there should be deprivation has to be ended. Like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program 2005 provide employment guarantee to an able-bodied person on demand for a minimum of 100 days. Now in the STSC area, that was now 200 days, and there was like upgradation of the 27 rupees in Rajasthan in Manrega salary. So these kind of initiative like Kaushal Vikas Yojana, skill development skills to ensure livelihood for poor. Okay, these kind of skills are like Chiranjeevi Yojana, Ayushman Bharat. So these kind of skills are to be provided to the health security and life insurance and all that, to reduce that kind of poverty from our society. Similarly, right to education make provision for free and compulsory education for children of age 6 to 14 in our fundamental right. Article 21A and 86 constitutional amendment 2002, it was described in that also. Article 45A, that was also for the compulsory education in DPSP, that was the state will be mandatorily to be provide, like it should be the duty of the state to provide the free and compulsory education to their children's. And also article 50 and 51 there is also provided. So this is the very important things which was to reduce poverty. Article 39 equal pay for equal work for women and means. Skill India program will scale up skill development efforts in rural and urban area, which would generate more employment opportunity for skilled people. These programs are aimed at bringing an end to deprivation from society to the pupil come of out of poverty. So Make in India program, as we all know, the Make in India program and activities including in rural area and will provide more employment opportunity for the peoples. Now the next question. Next question is what? Why are the tribal in India referred to as the scheduled tribes? Indicate the major provisions enshrined in the Constitution of India for their upliftment. So why they are referred as a scheduled tribe, first of all? Okay, so what kind of reason, as we are saying that these tribal peoples are scheduled tribes? Tribal people in India are recognized by the constitution of scheduled tribe, which constitute 8.6% of total population of India. The Constitution of Scheduled Tribe Order 1958 lists 744 tribes across 22 states of first schedule. There is a first schedule, there is 744 tribes and 22 states. Okay, they called it the scheduled tribes in the Constitution of Scheduled Tribe Order 1950. A number of that peoples are there. A number of that peoples are there. Okay, so enacted to implement the provision of the constitution like scheduled caste and scheduled tribe prevention and atrocity act 1989. What kind of provisions constitution provided to safeguard of that scheduled tribe is the Prevention of Atrocity Act 1989 was provided to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in our constitution, as well as several provisions have been incorporated in the constitution for safeguarding and promoting the interest of right of the scheduled tribes in various sphere so as to enable them to join the national mainstream. Okay, Article 46 of the Constitution provides that the state shall promote with special care the education and economic interest for weaker sections. Okay, reservation in the education like Article 15 for, while reservation in post and service has been provided in Article 16 for, Article 16 4 and Article 16 4b of the Constitution. So Article 23, which prohibit traffic in human being and beggar and other similar form of forced labor, has a special significance of scheduled tribe. In pursuance of this article, Parliament enacted the Bonded Labor System Act, Abolition Act 1976. Article 24, which prohibit employment of children below age of 14 year in any factory or mine or in any hazard activity, is also significant for scheduled tribes, as a substantial portion of child labor engaged in this job belongs to scheduled tribes. Article 243D provides reservation of seats for scheduled tribe in Panchayata, and 330 provides a reservation of seats for scheduled tribe in House of Pupil. Article 332 provides reservation of seats for scheduled tribe in Legislative Assembly. 330 is for the House of Pupil, Legislative Council, and 332 is for the Legislative Assembly. Article 334 provides the reservation of seats for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in Lok Sabha and the state Vidhan Sabha. Okay, it's for Lok Sabha and the state Vidhan Sabha, and the representation of the Anglo-Indian community in the Lok Sabha and the state Vidhan Sabha by nomination would continue up 2000 January 20. So that was now eliminated, as January is now not there. So this news is now for the old news. Okay, other specific safeguard has been provided. Article 244 read with the provision like 5th and 6th schedule, 371A for the provision of the Nagaland, special provision for Nagaland, B for the special provision for Assam, C for the special provision for Manipur, and F for the special provision for Sikkim. So we can give the all these kind of facts to illustrate, to give over assumptions and over correlative ideas to the question to be fulfilled in that exam. So it should be as I described before. The exam will be there, and 10 question will be the from 10 marker, and 10 question will be from the 15 marker, and 100 words, 150 words, and 200 words will be there. Okay, thank you, hope you enjoyed this lecture. Do read, stay tuned, stay blessed, keep continue with my channel, and do listen this channel, so you will get the daily updates as this old papers I'm providing presently, and after then we will discuss some current issues also. First of all, we wants to make one structure for the examination, so that can be helpful to understand the core basic requirements of this paper. Okay, thank you, all the best. Bye.